OverMark Entertainment exclusive.
So this is the topic that we have right here, and it's the state of wrestling midway through 2025. So I figured since we were about 7 months in, it's a safe wrap up to say how we are so far in the year. So we're going to talk about WWE for a second and kind of where their state's at. So I feel like a little safe generalization of the show and what its strengths at and weaknesses might be, how the production's on point, but the creativity seems to be drying up. So here's some of their strengths. Visually, it's polished, production's awesome, and upgraded cinematic feel under Triple H's creative leadership is definitely noticeable. But the big faction storytelling remains central. Bloodline, Judgment Day, Seth Rollins' new crew, enabling layered narratives, occasional great matches, but overall, they're bland, with mostly predictable finishes. Their weaknesses are fans calling it bland and overloaded with predictable chaos and interference, walking a fine line, which what we just kind of talked about. Reddit voices echoes of frustration. WWE's in the monetary era right now. Constant repeat matches, feuds, presentation very dull. It's been an awful year creatively. The Cena heel turn, repetitive and stale as fuck. I mean, I kind of agree with him there. It hasn't all been bad with Cena, but way more of it has been bad than not. And AEW side, they're pretty passionate in their performances, but their fumbling follow-throughs are definitely just as noticeable as some of the stuff we just talked about with WWE. So, progress has been made. They have double-digit growth in key demos. No, they fucking don't. Collision's down 16% and Dynamite's down 12% since quarter three last year.
Says that in the same sentence. That's funny.
Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, they definitely do not have any growth.
That's the opposite of progress. So they're down double digits in key. That should be in the persistent issues.
Yeah, let me start that again. Storytelling with real stakes like the Young Bucks EVP status and All In just shows that they kind of have like a little bit of narrative ambition put in their matches, because that stipulation was just added. But I don't know if you would use that match as an example, but there definitely has been, like, in their bigger matches, a little bit better storytelling going on, but overall the mid card's just dead. There's no stories going on, and so I don't know if you could really say that there's much increase in story beyond maybe their main event. But I think that there is some progress in some sense. This isn't what's down here, but I'm gonna have to pull something out of my ass. Is that the stories that are good have gotten better. Their production has gotten a little bit better, although it's still, they'll never reach WWE because they'll always be catching up there. It would be nice if they did. And I don't know, I'm kind of struggling to find something here, but there are parts of the shows that more of it that's better since they've gotten some of their guys back that were hurt. So now you got maybe Kenny occasionally, MJS always hitting it out the park. I really like Mark Briscoe. Tony's awesome. So there are definitely things to be excited about. Kyle Fletcher, Don Callis. So I feel like they're a little bit more consistent with some of the guys that they do feature, as opposed to not having them on as much. But some of their issues, which we were just talking about, their fucking key demos are down 16 and 12% in quarter three since last year. And fans see stagnant creativity here too, and a lot of filler. It just seems like AEW stagnated a little bit. To this Wikipedia Redditor, the rosters has instability. There's a talent exodus in random spurs. Some wrestlers view WWE as more stable. Yeah, but I don't know if that's a good thing to some extent with WWE stability. But AEW does have a problem with people disappearing. We talked about that earlier in Hungle Boy. But production and storyline still seem as muddled as ever or complicated. I think the storylines have gotten better, but the overcomplicated part, I can feel that. I feel like you can too, Dave. That's awesome, legit stuff. And then we got a little bit more community sentiments here and some comparisons. A recent sentiment study showed that AEW's positivity advantage on Reddit has evaporated since mid-2023 by WrestleNomics, actually. Reddit community consensus is AEW's peaks have plateaued, and WWE, while less innovative, still leads to volume and polish. Some fans still argue that this is the best era for wrestling overall, with solid options across WWE, AEW, NJPW, Stardom, and more. I don't know about that. Having
I mean,
more,
there's a lot of wrestling to watch. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the best era of wrestling. But I mean, there is a lot of good wrestling out there to watch. That's definitely a thing.
yeah, and maybe for them it is, because everything's subjective, I guess. But so here's some mid-year takeaways. WWE production, top tier visuals and polish. AEW production, rougher, but it's improving, and they got streaming going on now. And so I guess it's kind of strong across both brands, strong enough. Creative, WWE's relying on factions and interference, and there's kind of a risk of fatigue now. AEW's creative, they're attempting at doing big stakes, but everything's super repetitive. So in both companies, there's a desire for fresh narratives, and I agree there. I mean, we all want new, fresher shit.
Yeah.
Talent, star-studded, deep roster in WWE. AEW, they got quality matches, but definitely a weaker bunch of talent, I'd say. At least to the star level of WWE. AEW does have a lot of good talent, but just not at the star level.
Great wrestlers, but
Yeah.
not necessarily people that are stars.
Yeah, exactly. And it says multi-promotion health brings diversity, which, I can agree on. Not a lot of diversity over in WWE right now. Everybody fucks about Triple H on that, but once they get some of those NXT call-ups there, that'll definitely change a lot. They're working on it. But fan sentiment, so everybody's critical of the monetization, or I don't know, monotony, I guess both, in WWE. And then AEW, it's mixed opinions, but there's definitely stagnation. Still divided, but wrestling's interest is high in the overall market. More wrestling than ever. I don't think that means that everybody's enjoying it more than ever, but there's definitely something out there for you if you want to find it. And what that means is WWE must innovate story arcs and reduce formulaic endings before viewer burnout sets in, which I feel like it kind of has, but they're towing that line. And AEW needs to translate match quality into coherent, long-form storytelling and stabilize its roster. Fans appreciate the match caliber across both brands, but creative differences, which I think we can all agree there. We all want more. We all want better stories, different stories, talent to be used better. So I mean, you're always going to want more, but those are legit things for sure. And some suggested focus moving forward, kind of rehashing what we talked about. Story innovation. WWE must rescue fandom from overbooked endings, and AEW should aim for fewer, higher impact feuds. I don't know about that. Talent development. AEW's staggering call-ups would strengthen its bench. I don't know who the fuck they could call up.
Call-ups.
Yeah, who are they going to fucking call up?
It was call up Ring of Honor?
Yeah, I don't know.
They already do that every week.
Yeah, I don't know about that at all. And WWE's Evolve brand could foster fresh stars, I guess.
They're already doing that with NXT and Evolve.
Yeah.
What do you mean could? I mean, this is some goofy notes at this part. The other stuff was good. Sometimes the notes turn out weird.
Yeah, but cross-brand momentum capitalize on the overall wrestling renaissance, NJPW Stardom, and global access, fuel fan engagement. That is true for some people. I actually fucking despise the mix of stuff. Come over if you're a star in those companies and work in AEW or WWE. Don't just come here and then leave. I'd like you to stick around.
Yep.
I like investing in characters and character growth. And if I can't invest in you in more than just wrestling, well, I'm not going to get invested. I think a lot of people feel the same way too.
Definitely.
But yeah, but I pretty much agree with all that shit. I don't really have too much to add to it. WWE's about to start reaching a major burnout point, but they're still filling out a lot of the shows. Their setups aren't as big as they used to be, and AEW does somewhat seem to be still doing a little bit better. But the big tell is going to be what happens after what happens this weekend, and if they capitalize the momentum. We just went over it last week. They usually don't. They don't create historical moments. They just kind of gloss over them and forget that they happened after a couple weeks because we'll just move on. All In will be the best wrestling show in the world, right? That ever happened.
And then the next show that they do, exactly.
Yeah, so it's like it either wasn't that good or man, they are hitting it off out of the park and having the best wrestling shows ever, but they're not. They're having some good ones here and there. And I do enjoy the pay-per-views, especially the matches out of the wrestlers that I'm more engaged in, but these 7-hour shows can be tough. And no 7-hour wrestling show is the best wrestling show ever. If you have to do 7 hours of it, something's up. It's not MMA. You know?
Yeah, the best part of a 7-hour show is when it's fucking over.
Yeah, pretty much. And I don't know. Don't need to keep rehashing it, but AEW, they just focus on using your bigger stars more. Stop using all these random people that don't need to be on the show. Strengthen your stories a little bit more. Really put your mid-card titles and stories and make them last long. That way we can sink our teeth into it and care about the titles. That none of your titles besides the world title have any prestige at all. They have absolutely none. They mean jack shit. And you're about to create another one. So you might want to work on that too. But we can go on this a little bit more later. But that's been our little piece on that and the state of wrestling in 2025. And I think that'll wrap up our little...
An OverMark Entertainment exclusive.